Hey, it's Les from the TV Dudes. This week, as part of our special coverage of Austin Film Festival's 26th year, I chat with Tripper Clancy about adapting Varsity Blues for television, writing Stuber, and much more. It's a great interview, and I hope you enjoy. So this is Les for the TV Dudes, and I'm lucky enough to be here with Tripper Clancy. One of the things that I love most about this fest is its focus on the screenwriter. Consequently, you end up with a fest where no one recognizes anybody by face, but you're standing in a room of people who have written so many of your favorite things.
Totally.
You've worked in both. Movies. Stuber just came out.
Yeah.
But you just recently broke Varsity Blues as a series.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about writing for you and what it's like to play with format like that? Beyond an original idea, but taking something, finding what you like about it, and then readjusting the structure without ruining it.
Yeah, I think for me, if you're writing a movie, you can kind of get lost, I think, in the concept or the plot sometimes. There's a pretty standard structure to a 3-act structure to most movies. When you're formatting it for TV, when you're in the early brainstorming stages, you're really forced to think about the characters more. And you should think about characters either way. I mean, that should be at the forefront. But TV forces you to do that because you're going to be living with these people for a longer period of time. It's just the nature of how TV is. So you start really with the characters and kind of build from there. Whereas sometimes movies start with, wouldn't it be cool if this happened, or what if this happened? What if we put these two people together? That kind of thing. So it's a different process, but at the end of the day, you're just trying to take interesting characters and put them in unique situations.
I heard somebody describe it a bit as movies always need to be closing off open plot ends, so that by an hour in you need to have all of the players on the board and we know kind of where we're going.
Totally.
Whereas with television, you're constantly kind of wanting to make sure that you leave something open, or movies don't need a story engine necessarily.
Yeah, and that's been like probably the hardest thing for me switching from movies to TV is I don't have to tie things up at the end of an episode. You're constantly laying out more rope like throughout the season, and some of those things will pay off by the end of the season. They need to, but you still want to keep other threads alive so people are wanting more for the next season, assuming you get that season order. As a writer, do you have a preference? Do you miss not getting maybe to write third acts? Yeah, a little bit, but for me the biggest difference is like a social one, where like on features I'm just sitting alone in my office all the time. It's very lonely. And I'm like always texting buddies for like a lunch date or something, and you're kind of on an island. TV, you're going to an office, you've got 4 or 5, 10 other people, you're collaborating with them, you're fighting with them, but it's a sense of community and like family that you don't get when you're writing a movie. Have you had a best moment in terms of the writer's room of hearing an idea that's not yours and going, that's where we're going, that's great? For sure. That's the best feeling, is when you don't have to come up with it, if someone else does. I think in a healthy writer's room, I think it is, kind of a best idea wins scenario. And if everyone's open to that, it doesn't matter if you're the lowest person on the rung or the showrunner. If someone has a great idea, everyone else latches onto it, spitballs that idea, expands on it, and then you can have 30 minutes where you're breaking maybe an entire episode or two just based off one spark from one person. And that's like at its best. At its worst, you spend like a week like just digging your heels into stuff, and you can't get past a certain story problem, and you go home and everyone's kind of like depressed about it just because it's like, what did we do this past week? Like, we accomplished nothing. But it does usually take one person to have like one great idea, and then everyone kind of feeds off that energy. Have you had just a most frustrating moment where you thought, we're not going to get past this? Oh yeah, for sure. It happens in a lot of rooms where you might be going down the line with a ways on a storyline, and somebody realizes, probably the showrunner, maybe the studio, that this isn't working for whatever reason, and you may have to undo 2 or 3 or 4 weeks worth of work, and that's painful, because like you want to constantly be building towards something, and then when you find out the last month is thrown out, it's pretty devastating, and it can be demoralizing.
I mean, it makes sense that every step forward you make isn't going to be perfect. That some of these are going to be missteps. We got to backtrack a little, but yeah, that's not how your brain works. You just want to move forward. Totally.
And on a movie, usually I've turned in an outline or a treatment, and we've all kind of agreed on the general, plot points of the movie. So I know when I'm writing the script, I'm doing something that we're all basically going to be happy with, and there's going to be revisions and notes, but like we've all kind of signed off on this general thing. In a TV show, you're discovering it throughout the process, and whatever you pitched in the room to sell the show is not going to be what the show turns out to be. That's almost entirely different. So you're constantly discovering what the story is, and it could be the producers or the studio. Someone's not going to like the way it's going. They might tell you to redo it. You may have to fight for certain things, and I guess that's fun, but it can also be really challenging.
Yeah, I can't imagine trying to shift gears in between those two structures. I know just me with my own personal writing, it can be difficult to try to sort your projects into I feel like this is a movie or I feel like this is a TV show. In terms of your writing career, did you have one or the other that you kind of intended to do?
Yeah, I mean, movies, that's like what up until a year ago, that's pretty much all I did. And I think it's because I just really understood the structure of a movie. And so if you have strong structure, usually the story, it makes it easier to write a compelling story. And I never quite understood the structure of TV shows. And I think I just didn't take the time to think about them. I watched them for pleasure and I didn't break them down that way. And so for me, I like it gives you more confidence when you know how to structure the story. So that's why I always thought I would stay. But the business is kind of changing, and it's the kinds of movies I like to write, I think, are now becoming TV shows.
I had exactly that discussion earlier with someone. It was the Harry and Deborah that wrote Can't Hardly Wait and Josie and the Pussycats and directed them. And they talked about Can't Hardly Wait would probably not be a theater movie now.
Totally.
That would very much be a Netflix.
That'd be a Netflix series.
Yeah. And that they had basically moved into television because their type of movies weren't movies now.
It's depressing because if you think about if you think of your, say, top 5 movies from the 70s, I don't know how any of those movies get made today.
Yeah. There was an article a few years back about the first season of Seinfeld and how there's a very good chance that a network would not risk a second season.
Yeah.
That there was just kind of time to let these things grow. In terms of loving writing when you're a kid or loving creating things when you're a kid, and then moving into a professional structure where you have an office, where you have deadlines, you have people that are going to stand around and do nothing on set and cost money if you don't get this rewrite done. What was it like for you to bridge that transition between when it was just creating for you and now when you can't be precious about it, it's a job?
Yeah, I mean, the most fun you'll ever have is writing the first draft of something that's original, that's yours. And I still try to do that once a year. I try to write an original spec.
It's like a toothpaste in the air, like it's done, it exists.
It's done, I did it, nobody controlled this, everything came from my brain onto the page. Outside of that scenario, everything else you do on some level is a job. And it's part of it is just playing a trick, convincing yourself that what you're doing is like this great creative endeavor, even though you know you have these parameters set up by whatever the job is. Oftentimes, I'm working on a rewrite for a studio, and there's an existing script, and I'm trying to fix certain things in it, and we've all discussed what those problems are. And so it isn't, I'm not doing what I would do if I had free reign. I'm trying to accomplish a very specific task to move the ball forward for the studio. That's why I'm getting paid. And if you don't do that task, then you don't get paid anymore. So there is some pressure to that. But I find communication is the best way to alleviate the pressure. by being upfront about exactly what I'm going to do. And if everyone signs off on that, then I feel confident if I do it, even if they don't like the way it turned out, and I can say, well, this is what we talked about. I just did what we talked about. So that's my way around it, is just trying to be upfront about exactly what I'm going to do.
Get expectations clear.
Exactly. And keep the expectations very low. I tell them, this is impossible. I'll do my best. Yeah.
That's great. Can you talk a little bit about I'm Not Okay With This?
Yeah, so I'm
Netflix.
Yeah, I was one of the writers in the room on that show. It's going to come out in the spring. Jonathan Entwistle and Christy Hall are two writers that sold the show, and it stems from a graphic novel that Netflix likes. The graphic novelist. They have a show called Into the Fucking World. Same graphic novelist, and my boss directed most of those episodes. So he came from that background. And our show has a lot of similar kind of tone to that show. It's got teenagers. It's dark comedy. It deals with some interesting issues of sexuality. So it's not just a superhero show. That's an element of it, but I think to me it's kind of like a John Hughes present day real life issues with a little bit of superpowers, which is cool, and I haven't really seen that on TV.
Yeah, I'm interested now. You sold me.
All right, good. It was fun. It's a good one. I'm proud of it, and I hope we get another season of it to do it again. I'm
just glad that Netflix has seen fit to mine more of that guy's work. Into the Fucking World just absolutely caught us all off guard.
Totally.
And was so good.
It's just beautifully shot, and of course, working with the guy that directed those episodes, I don't want to say on record how much I love that show, because I don't want to stroke his ego, but he knows how good it is, and it was exciting for us to come into the room. We all had that shared experience of watching that show and him making that show, and that could be a touchstone for us as we were discussing our show.
Yeah. And thanks so much for chatting with me about all this today.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, enjoyed it.
Yeah.
The TV Dudes is an independently run podcast and a member of the Electric Sweater Podcast Network. We are exclusively listener supported. If you'd like to help us out, go to patreon.com/TVDudes. You can like us on Facebook and Twitter @TV Dudes. All the music for our show is by our friend and original TV dude, Gregory J. Amani Smith. To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com and electricsweater.com. I'm Grant Davis. Thanks for listening.